One of the other things that happened in the press conference this morning that I didn't go off on in the last hour that I want to go off on right now, and then we'll continue to pick up your calls. I'm curious your thoughts about the president's farewell address last night. It's getting short shrift in the media today, of course, because it's all Trump all the time. We've played some clips from it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. If you didn't watch it, you can watch it over at whitehouse.gov, and I strongly encourage you to, because it's just what a contrast between this extraordinary, dignified man, President Barack Obama, and the fellow that we saw in the press conference this morning, Donald Trump. What a contrast. But to the thing that I wanted to rant about is one of the things that Donald Trump said in the press conference this morning, when he was speaking about the release by Buzzfeed and then CNN reporting on this information, that there was compromising information, that the Russians had information that is compromising on Donald Trump, and then Donald Trump went out, and that information then, or a reference to that information anyway, was included in a 2-page summary that was given to Trump as well as to President Obama as part of the presidential daily briefings, right? That CNN reported that. In other words, Trump already knew that this information was out there. And he started out, going off on, this was put together by really, really bad people who were my opponents. They hated me. And, we don't know yet who paid for it, but it apparently was Republicans and presumably primary opponents. Might have been, Jeb Bush was the most well-funded of that bunch. If you want to go out and hire an Oppo research firm, I would probably put him at the top of the list, but we don't know where this came from. But then Trump goes off on this thing about how what he's really upset about is that the intelligence agencies of the United States allowed this information to get out into the public. And then he said, this is like Nazi Germany. Now, I'd like you to just think about that for a minute. I mean, just the two things that Donald Trump said this morning that most blew my mind were, number one, he quoted a Russian, I believe the guy is like the equivalent of a press secretary to President Putin. He quoted a Russian source saying that they don't have compromising information on him. So I don't think any president-elect of the United States, or president of the United States for that matter, or senator or congressman or dog catcher has ever said, I'm a good guy because the Russians say I'm a good guy. Of course they've got whatever information on him they can get. Every country does this. You think the United States doesn't have information on Angela Merkel? I mean, that we haven't been following her. I mean, look at what happened with, Sarkozy, with, governments gather information. They gather intelligence. And if they can get compromising intelligence, they do that. And we do that. I mean, this is just like a normal part of statecraft / spycraft. Is you find out what the hell's going on the other side. I mean, George Washington had spies. So, number one, he says, oh, well, this foreign government says I'm okay, so I'm okay. Really? That just, I was like, I can't believe he just said that. And then secondly, actually probably it should be first, is his saying that the intelligence agencies informing him and the president and somehow letting it out is like Nazi Germany. Nazi Germany is, I'm sorry, I'm an old activist from the 60s, right? I mean, I was in SDS back in the late 1960s, and I remember, when I was being spied on by the Michigan State Police, and God only knows. I mean, SDS, probably a third of SDS was spies, right? By our own government. So, it's not like I'm some kind of, starry-eyed, oh, gee, they would never, tap our phones. I mean, we've seen the stories. So it's not like, I've spent my entire life saying, the intelligence agencies of the United States would never do anything wrong and you should completely trust them always. Right? We got screwed with the Gulf of Tonkin resolution in 1964. We got screwed with the weapons of mass destruction stuff in 2002 and 2003. But this is a whole different thing. For a fellow who in 9 days is going to be president of the United States to say that our intelligence agencies who are going to be working for him have created an environment that resembles Nazi Germany. Even to, as I said, even to an old hippie / activist like me, that's shocking. And frankly, it seems un-American. I honor the work that our intelligence agencies do. I would like to see tighter regulation. I'd like to see a hell of a lot fewer private corporations involved. I think, if we're going to have spies, they should be employees of the United States, not employees of a private defense contractor that got the job because they bought off a congressman. I mean, I give you my list of how I think things should be different. But I would never, even, as I said, having been and probably, and no doubt, I mean, I do a show on RT, for God's sake, I'm probably, being snooped on all the time. But still, I would never go that far. And here's the guy, and I don't know any even crazed lefty who would go that far. Well, maybe a few, but this is like, it was like Breitbart News, which again makes one wonder: did Donald Trump come up with this? Was this his idea, his phrase? I mean, he tweeted it out at like 8 o'clock in the morning or something like this. This is like Nazi Germany. Really? And then repeated it at a press conference? I mean, yeah, let's tighten up our intelligence agencies. Let's make things work well. But we need to defend the interests of the United States of America. And that's, part of the front line of the defense.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
I'm just astonished. We'll be right back.